The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 203. Michigan gets a quarterback commit for the class of 2015. Karis LeVert undergoes foot surgery, and Coach John Beilein and the boys will be paying a visit to the desert in mid-December. That and more on this week's show. This is the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Just a reminder that May marks the beginning of our summer programming schedule. We'll be with you twice a month from now until August, when we resume weekly programming in anticipation of the upcoming football season. So our next show will publish on May 28th, and we hope you'll join us. This week on our Michigan Gameday segment, we'll do a bit of spring house cleaning. Associate Editor Michael Spath from the Wolverine will join us in just a few minutes. We'll talk softball, Wolverines in the NFL draft, what's next for Michigan basketball, and get Michael's springtime take on Michigan football. First, a few Wolverine news and notes to get things started. The class of 2015 has their first quarterback commit. He's 6'2", 200-pound Alex Malzone from Birmingham Brother Rice from the Detroit Catholic League here in Metro Detroit. Alex is rated 3 or 4 star by various scouting services. It's expected his rating will move up from here on out, as Alex played baseball in the spring and summer until this year, so now he's concentrating on just football. That means he'll be attending more camps, get more exposure, and with that, we'll probably see his star rating jump. Karis LeVert underwent surgery last week to repair a stress fracture in his foot. Coach John Beilein says Karis will be rehabbing for 8 to 10 weeks, but should be ready for practice and play when the team heads to Europe in August, which is great news. Michigan basketball's return visit to play Arizona will take place on December 13th. Last year, then number 1 Arizona squeaked out a 72-70 victory here in Ann Arbor. The trip to Zona is part of a tough pre-Big Ten schedule that includes visits to Chrysler from Syracuse and SMU. Both the Orangemen and Mustangs will be in the top 20, at least to start the season. And don't forget the Big Ten ACC Challenge game, which will probably pit Michigan against Virginia. I don't think that's been formalized yet. So there will be a lot of tough tests for a very young Michigan team very early in the season. Coming up next is Associate Editor of the Wolverine Magazine, Michael Spath. He joins us next on our Michigan Game Day segment here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. With us on our Michigan Game Day segment this week is the Associate Editor of the Wolverine Magazine, Michael Spath. Happy spring, Michael.
You know what? The weekend we had was a great spring. Thunderstorms right now, but so far so good, I would think.
I was going to get here sooner or later. Thought we'd have Michael on this week to sort of do some spring cleaning on some of the winter sports and just talk about a few tidbits. And Michael, I thought we'd start today just briefly with softball. Big Ten champs for, I think, a 7th year in a row, a top 10 ranking, runners-up in the Big Ten tourney over the weekend, falling to Minnesota 3-2 on Saturday, and headed for the NCAAs in Tempe later this week. Coach Carol Hutchins just keeps the machine rolling every year. Doesn't seem to get the credit that she should, does she, Michael?
I would agree. I mean, been a great coach of Michigan. When you look at the history of Michigan athletics, and there's certain coaches that are synonymous with success, Carol Hutchins has to be up there. I would agree that when people talk about it, they still talk about Bo Sternbeckler, and you look at John Urbanchek in swimming and Red Berenson in hockey, and maybe just because it's not a high-profile sport, although when you look at on the female, the women's athletic side, softball is probably the premier sport, and she's done a terrific job, and another Big Ten title. And I know that there was some concern that they're not really they're kind of limping into the NCAA tournament a little bit. They're not going in on fire. But you know what? They've gone in on fire the last couple of years, and they've gotten bounced in the Sioux regional or something like that. Just like the NCAA tournament in men's basketball, it's about getting hot at the right time. All they need to do is put together one good weekend and then put together another good weekend. That comes down to pitching and some timely hitting. So they've got a good roster, a good makeup of girls. They've got two great pitchers, and of course Sierra Romero, the talented sophomore shortstop that has twice been the Big Ten Player of the Year. So I think their chances of getting to Oklahoma City are as good as they've ever been.
Well, they start later this week in the NCAA, so good luck to the ladies. Great season. Switching gears, Michael, to the NFL draft. Did you think Taylor Lewan would go sooner than that number 11 pick?
Well, I saw a lot of forecasts for him to go to the Atlanta Falcons or the Buffalo Bills, which were a couple picks before number 11. It's tough to say because you look at how many mock drafts are out there, and guys have, saying this guy's going to go there, this guy's going to go there, and then the draft starts and everything gets thrown out the window. I mean, I don't think anybody had the Lions taking Eric Ebron out of North Carolina, and it just goes to show you that what the experts think and what the GMs think are two different things. And when I look at Lewan, the thing that's interesting to me about him going to Tennessee is reading everything about it, is that they don't need an offensive tackle. They have two good offensive tackles. Guys signed longer deals, so it's interesting. Could he play guard? I don't think he could. He's never played that position before. It's not it's not a strength for him if he needed to play the position. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. He could be that rare first-round draft pick that doesn't start as a rookie. And I think when you're an NFL team, in that first round, you have to get a starter. Usually in the second round, you have to get a starter. So it'll be interesting to follow his career, at least early on.
Since November, Michael, we've heard bits and pieces about the incident Taylor was involved in on the night of the Ohio State game. How serious do you think those charges are, and did they impact where he went in the draft?
I don't think they impacted where he went in the draft at all, because if they would have, usually when there's off-field issues, a guy doesn't fall to 11. I mean, if you call that falling, I mean, it was said ahead of time that there were three offensive tackles, and two of them, Jake Matthews at Texas A&M and Greg Robinson at Auburn, were considered better offensive tackles than Taylor Lewan. So I don't think he fell because of that. If he would have fallen, late down into the 20s, into the early 30s, maybe the second round, if people were really worried about his off-field issues. And certainly, I think looking at the police reports and kind of following up on it, it looks like it'll probably be something that doesn't really go anywhere. I don't know if he's guilty or not. That's up for a court to decide, but I certainly think that it's not going to impact him the way that we've seen a lot of other off-field issues impact athletes going forward. I think it'll be something that is, a minor thing for him in his career, and then it'll be about what he does going forward. Now, if he does something silly in the future, that could have an impact. But at this point, he's almost starting from scratch.
Well, other Wolverines in the draft, Michael Schofield went to the Broncos. Jeremy Gallen chosen by New England. Those are two pretty darn good teams to launch your career with, aren't they?
Absolutely, and two great places for each of those guys to go to based off of their skill set. I talked to Michael Schofield's dad, and they're going to give him a shot at tackle, but they might also give him a shot at guard. And if you're, you could pick a lot worse quarterbacks to have to learn from than Peyton Manning, and certainly he makes the offensive linemen around him better just because of his understanding of the offense and the way that he kind of teaches those guys. But you've got to be a heady player. The good news is that Michael Schofield's a pretty smart guy. Will probably be able to pick up that system fairly quickly, and third-round pick, I mean, that's a huge investment the Broncos are making in him. Again, like I said earlier, first and second-round picks, you're counting on starters. Your third-round pick a lot of times is a starter, but you're really expecting that person to be a depth player immediately and to be competing for a starting job within that second or third year. So he's going to have a great opportunity to play some point here soon in his career, and certainly has a chance to win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos next year. And then you look at Jeremy Gallon. You know, I thought he went off the board a little bit later than I expected. I thought he'd go fifth round. He went seventh round. But going to the New England Patriots and how they are always looking for wide receivers that can get open, that can play that slot position. You know, I think this is going to be a great fit. Plus the fact that he's a Michigan guy and he's going to a quarterback in Tom Brady. It's a Michigan guy that will probably look out for him a little bit just because of that connection. So it's a good place for Jeremy Gallon to land. And it would have been nicer if he went in the fifth round because you get a little bit more money than a seventh round pick. But certainly he's going to have a great chance to stick with them.
Well, Fitz Toussaint, Cam Gordon, Jabril Black, Thomas Gordon, they're all going to get NFL tryouts. Do you see any of those four having a chance to maybe crack an NFL roster?
You know, that's a good question. I think Cam Gordon has the best opportunity just because he's the best athlete for his position. The other guys, I don't know, we'll have to see. But I think Cam Gordon will have a shot. And you never know when guys go as undrafted free agents and get that tryout because, you know, it just comes down to a lot of times it's a factor outside of their own control. Is there an injury? Is there somebody in that camp that's at their position that's third on the depth chart that gets has a minor injury and they step up and they have an opportunity? I mean, a lot of times it just comes down to that for those undrafted free agents because there are no guarantees. They don't get a guaranteed rookie contract. So we'll have to see. I'm certainly not going to go out there and say that, two or three of them will make an NFL roster. I think if one of them makes it, usually as an undrafted free agent, that's a pretty high percentage.
With us on our Michigan Game Day segment this week is the associate editor of the Wolverine, Michael Spath. Michael, let's switch gears and talk about basketball for just a minute. Most of us thought Nick Stauskas ready for the NBA draft, but were you surprised Glenn Robinson III in the end decided to go?
I was not surprised Glenn Robinson decided to go just because you kind of got the feel that he was leaning that direction. I think with Nick going pro, and then, you know, as the players were probably very much aware of what was going on with Mitch McGary, that he was facing a year-long suspension from the NCAA for getting caught with marijuana. I think the players knew that, and I think even though that was going through the appeal process, Glenn probably looked around and said, well, if Nick's going to go and Mitch is probably going to go, then, you know, what am I coming back for? I guess I could be the big dog. Considering, you know, no pun intended since that's his dad's nickname, but I think he kind of looked and said, listen, this is going to be somebody else's team. I'm going to turn it over to somebody else. And I think the big thing with Robinson is that right now he is projected to be a 3 in the NBA. And a 3 in the NBA is, you know, kind of like his size, 6'8", 220 pounds, a guy that has incredible athleticism, has enough of an offensive game that he can score from the outside, and but they want a guy that can handle the ball. And if he comes back to Michigan and plays that 3, this may sound like some really crazy logic, but if he proves he can't do it, then he hurts his draft stock more than being an unproven commodity. You know, you think like, well, he comes back and proves that he can be a 3 and he goes higher in the draft, potentially. But if he comes back and he struggles being that ball handler, then the NBA knows he can't do it, and now he has to be a 4 in the NBA, and he's not really a 4. So I thought for him it actually did make some sense. And it's the one thing about that that's a little disappointing is that it's kind of sad that we're talking about this and we're talking about it. And I like Glenn Robinson. He's a nice kid, a great teammate. He did a lot of good things for Michigan this year, very selfless. But I haven't once mentioned, well, how does this affect Michigan? How would he impact the team as a teammate? In today's age, it's all about my own potential and how this is going to affect my future. And people don't think too much anymore about, well, I could come back and I could be a great player for Michigan for 2 more years and I could leave a legacy at Michigan. They're so preoccupied with what's going to happen next in the NBA that the idea of you know, being selfless a little bit more and doing something for the team doesn't really factor in all that much anymore.
We had a few weeks to wait for Mitch McGary's decision, probably as it appears now because of the suspension, appealing the suspension, I should say. Do you have a feeling, Michael, that Mitch was leaning towards staying, and that's why he waited for the appeal process to work out, or was he going anyway?
I would say this: if he was going anyway, then he had no reason to wait, and he had no reason to come out publicly and tell people that he was going to be suspended. I think there was a really decent chance he was going to come back because just when you look at those variables, it adds up to a kid that was invested in his return. I mean, yeah, why go through? Why appeal at all if you're just going to go pro? So it's disappointing. I certainly think he would have been a really important piece of the puzzle next year. You look at this team, and I know there's been some predictions that they're going to miss the NCAA tournament. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think they're a top 2 team in the Big Ten. Although the Big Ten will be a little bit down next year. Michigan State will be down. We don't know what we'll get from Iowa. Wisconsin should be pretty good, but there's a lot of factors there that still need to be considered. But it's too bad. He seems like a great kid, but this is one of those times where you make a mistake, a bad mistake, and you get caught, and you have to pay the consequences, and that's just the way it is.
Well, let's talk about spring football practice to wrap it up then, Michael. There's still a lot of concerns about Team 135. Spring game did not do much to alleviate fan anxiety, I don't think. Were you alarmed at the offensive line play during what you saw, at least in the spring scrimmage?
I would say alarmed is a really good word. I thought we were going to see some progress. I tell you, there's two things that to me I walked away with going, whoa, that's not good. And the first was actually the first play of the spring scrimmage. Devin Gardner rolls to his right. He's under some pressure, and he just throws the ball up, and it gets picked off. And you can say, well, it's a spring scrimmage and blah, 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 blah. But one of the big concerns a year ago, one of his big struggles was that he made some bad decisions. We go back to that Notre Dame game where he's under pressure. He's going to take a sack. And instead of just taking a sack, he throws the ball up. It gets picked off and returned for a touchdown, or it's caught in the end zone. And that was a game changer because if they don't do that, Michigan blows out Notre Dame. Instead, it turns out to be a really tight game until the end. Those are some of the decisions that Devin Gardner made that were really raised your eyebrow, and he can't keep doing that. And yet here it was, 6 months later, supposedly have learned a lot from a new offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier, and making the same bad decisions. And so that was concerning. And then the offensive line, I mean, I did the numbers, and I think the running backs averaged less than 2 yards per carry in the spring game, and that's, Devin Gardner was running for his life. If they would have been live, quarterbacks would have been live, I calculated that they would have been sacked 5 times in the amount of about 40 plays. That's just awful. And so, people that the Michigan insiders and some of the coaches we've talked to are not concerned. They say that there's a lot of pieces that are still coming together. That Eric Magnuson will get back. That his arrival at left tackle will aid a lot of guys. That Graham Glasgow could be your center. Patrick Kugler is still learning the position. I mean, there's a lot of things that could still work out in their favor. But man, I was really nervous after watching that, thinking, where's the progress? It's been 3 months. It's been 15 spring practices. Where is the progress? And certainly we didn't see it.
No, I think that sums it up for most Michigan fans and observers from the spring game. But it will be here before we know it, and there's a lot of work to be done. Our guest today has been Michael Spath, Associate Editor at the Wolverine Magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you better hurry up. They're working on that great preseason edition, and it's going to be hot off the press pretty soon, and we will have a link up on our show notes page to make it quick and easy for you. So, as always, Michael, it's a pleasure having you with us. You have a great summer, and before you know it, we'll be back in August doing the football preseason reports, and we will get you back on the show.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mike. We always look forward to it.
Softball, baseball, and more football news, all coming up next on Wolverine Quick Hits as we wrap it up for another week here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits this week, the number 10 ranked University of Michigan softball team will open its 20th consecutive NCAA tournament in the Tempe Regional against San Diego State on Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The winner of the Tempe Regional will host the winner of the Tallahassee Regional. Florida State earned the number 8 overall seed and will host Fordham, South Carolina, and USF. Michigan is 13-7 all-time against San Diego State, with the most recent meeting coming in 2008, a 3-0 Michigan win. The Wolverines own an 11-10 record against Arizona State, with the most recent meeting coming in March, a 2-0 win for ASU. The Maize and Blue has never played Dartmouth. All games from the Tempe Regional will be carried live on ESPNU. Also, congratulations to Sierra Romero, Big Ten Player of the Year, also the leading hitter in the nation heading into the NCAA tournament, and Sierra was also invited this summer to try out for Team USA. So a great season. Congratulations to Michigan's Sierra Romero. The University of Michigan football team, in conjunction with the Big Ten Conference and its television partners, announced on Tuesday that the Wolverines' November 1st homecoming game against Indiana at Michigan Stadium is slated for a 3:30 p.m. kickoff. A television destination for the conference matchup will be determined either 6 or 12 days before the game. It is the fourth confirmed kickoff time on Michigan's 2014 football schedule. The Wolverines will travel to South Bend on September 6th to face Notre Dame at 7:30 p.m. in a game that will be broadcast by NBC. The Wolverines will make their first trip to Piscataway, New Jersey on October 4th to face new Big Ten East Division foe Rutgers. That contest against the Scarlet Knights will be shown on BTN at 7 p.m. The following week, October 11th, Michigan will host the third night game in the history of Michigan Stadium and the first against a Big Ten opponent, welcoming Penn State to the Big House at 7 p.m. The primetime encounter will be televised nationally on either ESPN or ESPN2. The Penn State game headlines the 2014 home schedule, which begins on August 30th versus Appalachian State. Ticket packs, including family packs, will go on sale on June 3rd. A complete 2014 ticket calendar can be found at mgoblue.com/experience. In baseball news, freshman Brent Adcock continued the trend of solid starting pitching on the weekend by striking out a career-high 7 while allowing just 2 hits and no runs in 8 innings, as the University of Michigan baseball team earned a series win over Ohio State with a 4-1 victory Sunday afternoon at the Wilpon Complex, home of Ray Fisher Stadium. Adcock, making his third career start, struck out Ohio State's first 2 hitters on 6 pitches and didn't look back. He scattered 4 walks but allowed just 1 runner to reach third base. He got out of that first and third 2-out jam in the 6th with a strikeout of Josh Desi. Junior James Bork pitched the 9th for the Maize and Blue, striking out a batter while allowing a hit and a run. The Wolverines 26-26-1 heading into this final week of the season. Michigan has 3 non-Big Ten games at home this week, and next week the Big Ten tournament gets underway. The Wolverines 13-11 in the conference. On Wednesday, the NCAA announced its 2012-13 Division I Academic Performance Program Public Recognition Award recipients, which include 6 University of Michigan varsity athletic teams. They are men's basketball, women's basketball, men's cross country, women's gymnastics, volleyball, and water polo. The Public Recognition Awards recognize teams among the top 10% of their respective sports in the most recent multi-year Academic Progress Report, or APR report as it's known. This year's report covers the 4-year span of academic years from 2009 through 2010 to 2012 through 13. The Michigan women's basketball team has received the Public Recognition Award all 4 years, while men's basketball, the 2014 Big Ten champions, has received its each of the last 3 years. Each year, the NCAA honors select Division I sports teams that achieve the top APR within their sport by publicly recognizing their latest multi-year rate. This announcement is part of the overall Division I academic reform effort. The APR provides a real-time look at a team's academic success each semester by tracking the academic progress of individual student-athletes on scholarship. The APR accounts for eligibility, retention, and graduation and provides a measure of each team's academic performance. So congratulations to all of those University of Michigan sports. The Michigan athletics scene is slowing down as we approach summer, but here at GBMW, we don't take a vacation. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up for free membership. You'll get email updates when a story is published and have access to our always interesting message board. So stay in the Wolverine loop this spring and summer. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and become a member today. It's free. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your comments on anything maize and blue. Call 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. And record something we can use on the next show. You can also email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. We love to hear from you, so do our listeners. The show app is now available in the Android Market Store at Amazon.com, iTunes, and the Windows 8 App Store. You will also find us on Stitcher Radio On Demand, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. If you listen on your laptop or desktop, subscribe for free delivery from iTunes. Thanks again to my guest today, Associate Editor of the Wolverine Magazine, Michael Spath. If you are not a subscriber to the Wolverine, you should be. There is no better coverage on Michigan athletics anywhere. Visit www.thewolverine.com and subscribe today. Michael told me they are working on the football preseason edition, which will be out in July. That alone, if you've never seen it, is worth the subscription price. That's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be back with you next on May 28th, as again, we are on our summer programming schedule of 2 shows per month right up until August. So please join us on May 28th. Until then, enjoy your spring, which is finally arriving here in Michigan and the Midwest. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. And as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue.